Mr. Squidward. Welcome to the night shift.
Fresh off the holiday break, and welcome in, folks, to the final week of coverage for the MI6 Sports Network for the year 2020. And of course, folks, we bring you back the final Tuesday night episode of The Night Shift, the MI6 Sports Network's late night sports talk show, as we get ready to move some things around starting up next week and post the New Year's Day break coming up in a few days. With that, folks, alongside the usual late night owl co-host of the MI6 Sports Network, our good friend Isaiah Leung from the home studios in Fremont, California, and our good man John Alcorn down deep in the heart of Texas, yours truly, Callan McClurg from the home studios here in San Diego. Isaiah, good to see you, man. Happy belated Merry Christmas and holidays to you and the family. How are things going on this Tuesday as we get ready, man, to ring in the new year in a couple of days?
Callan, John, happy belated Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you and your family as well. It was a great holiday break. Miss you guys so much. It's so good to finally get back in the swing of things and get back to programming here on the network. I've been looking forward to this day for a long, long time. We got a lot of things to talk about. But hey, man, I enjoyed my holiday break, ate a lot of good food, cooked me and my family a nice ham with pineapples and a nice glaze around. Turned out really, really good. And also, I got to thank my Secret Santa, Ryan Schreiner, for giving me an awesome Secret Santa gift. He gave me a bunch of football trading cards, and also, most importantly, I got a Nick Mullins limited edition debut card, man. This is going to be worth $1,000 in 10 years' time. I'm going to hold off on selling it until 10 years, but Ryan, appreciate the gift. Appreciate the gift, Ryan. Really appreciate you, and welcome back to programming, man. Let's get this party going.
It took 2 minutes and 25 seconds for him to name drop Nick Mullins. But our good man, John Alcorn, joining us from deep in the heart of Texas on this Tuesday night. John, good to see you, man. Again, Merry belated Christmas. Happy holidays to you and the family, man. How's things going on this Tuesday as we get ready to ring in the new year and get back underway with programming here this week, and again, start the reshuffled programming schedule next week?
First of all, Isaiah, Madden 21 is worth more than your car would be in the next 10 to 50 years. Second, you're doing pretty well. Just, again, it's midnight. Again, it's 2021 in a couple of days, and wouldn't be here this late at night for really just any people, and we wouldn't be here if we didn't believe in what we did. Of course, you see, in my nickname for tonight is to troll Isaiah, and that will be my job tonight.
But of course, folks, as usual, it is the night shift on this Tuesday here tonight. Now, folks, as a quick heads up here, we are still, of course, doing the ongoing deliberation that is the 31 Days of Hot Takes Challenge. However, though, we have missed a couple of the polls, though, due to the Christmas break, though. So we are actually, folks, having one poll ending here in a couple of moments. For that was retroactive to yesterday, but with me being at work, I forgot to schedule the poll for Twitter. But that poll is basically already wrapped up with me beating Isaiah. That was Kobe being better than Larry Bird all-time, beating out Luke Walton over LeBron James. So that is going to move on to the final of that half of the bracket. But tonight, though, folks, you are voting for Isaiah or myself. You're voting for Isaiah's rant about Lonzo Ball being the fourth best point guard in the NBA and being better than Kyrie Irving over me and the very infamous shades I have broken out several times here because of Isaiah and the utter lunacy that he has. But again, folks, you can cast those votes over on Facebook.com/MI6 Sports for tonight's poll. We'll have one more poll for you folks real quick. I want to get this out there. We'll have one more poll for you tomorrow. But then, though, due to the time constraints, though, we are going to be having the actual final matchup take place on Thursday. But a couple of polls, though, folks, that we have missed will be done via Twitter in a thread posted on Wednesday. So head on over to at MI6 Sports on Twitter to cast your votes for the remaining ones that we do, in fact, have coming up in the not too distant future. But want to kind of get that out there. We did, in fact, miss a couple of the matchups due to, again, the nature of the Christmas holiday and everything else going on. Now, folks, also as another reminder, again, this is, as mentioned, our final Tuesday episode of the MI6 Sports Network's late night sports talk show, that which, again, folks, is the night shift here. We are once more moving this program full-time to the weekends, starting as of next week. So, again, as a quick clarification, folks, starting next Monday, Wild Sports Talk will remain in its Monday and Wednesday time slots. My solo program, The Sports Lounge, will make its grand reopening after 7 years of hiatus at 8 o'clock Pacific time on Tuesdays. John will have his one-man show at 9:30 on Thursdays, and No BS will stay in its Friday time slot at 6:30 p.m. Then a doubleheader of programming on Saturday with Fan Response with Ryan, Alcorn, and Shareable Steve at 5 o'clock Pacific time. Then myself and Isaiah and sometimes Alcorn will join you folks on the night shift now every Saturday and Sunday as of next week. Again, just wanted to get that word out for you folks once more here tonight. And we'll again rehash that as the program does in fact wind down here today. With that, though, Isaiah and John Alcorn, plenty of headlines in the news world of the sports world on this Tuesday. Of course, guys, the NBA season is underway, but how about those guys? We have already seen one of the first major in-season injuries during the very shortened NBA season already come to fruition, sadly. And it is a very young boating superstar, guys, in Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies, who had to leave the game over the weekend, or as of Monday, with Memphis, suffering a severely sprained ankle. He is going to be out for 3 to 5 weeks for the Memphis Grizzlies. And Isaiah, we'll start with you, man. Now, more so, I think a lot of us agree here that we had a lot of concerns, though, about this season getting underway and the shortest offseason for any North American sports. You're looking at a 70-plus day gap between the NBA Finals concluding and the first games of the regular season being played. I think a lot of basketball fans raised a lot of concern about this season starting this early because of the injuries, the fatigue factor, wear and tear of guys that played deep into the bubble or did not play since March 11th or didn't play a lot because of them leaving the bubble early with them losing in the playoffs or in the regular season. But Isaiah, the first major in-season injury comes to fruition with the Grizzlies losing Ja Morant for the foreseeable future. Isaiah, give us your thoughts on this injury, and is this probably, in your mind, Mr. Leung, the first major domino? And I think we shouldn't be surprised, though, but I think more so, does this injury in your mind, Isaiah, ride solely on the short offseason in your mind, yay or nay, bud?
Nay, because I think that this was a freak injury. If you watched it yesterday, what happened was he stepped on one of the Brooklyn Nets players' foot as he was going down. So you always see that in the NBA. Ja Morant is lucky that it wasn't a worse injury than it's being reported right now, because from after he suffered it, he was limping around. He had to be taken off the court on a wheelchair, and I thought he had broken his ankle when I first saw it. But I'm really glad that it's only an ankle sprain and that he's only going to be out for 3 to 5 weeks. But I don't think it's part of the short offseason of the NBA. I think it's just a freak injury, and it's an injury that people suffer a lot when they play basketball.
You know, Alcorn, I think that Isaiah is right that it may in fact just have been like a freak play, though, but at the same time, freak plays happen in sports. I think we see it a lot in football, basketball for sure, though, where you just basically, hit knees with somebody and you can rip your meniscus or rip an ACL. You hit a wet spot on the floor, but it's not cleaned up. You can blow out your knee, hyperextend your knee, roll an ankle, severely sprain it or whatnot. But I do think that while it's a freak injury, though, John, to me, though, it still, I think, kind of maybe raises the concern level, I'd say, for some fans that are, in fact, watching the season go on. And again, keeping in mind that this is the shortest offseason ever done in North American pro sports history. Again, you're looking at a 70-plus day gap between Game 6 of the NBA Finals and opening night. You're looking at maybe 1 full month of teams getting a chance to take a breather and then getting right back into play with the season. But I think, though, John, I think that Isaiah is right, though. But I still think, though, in my mind, though, Alcorn, this, though, I think begins a very bad trend, though, with, again, that time off being so condensed and, again, 70 days and whatnot. But Alcorn, your thoughts on Ja Morant's injury and what this might, in fact, mean for the Grizzlies going forward?
Two things. They're not in the NBA bubble, so you can't control what you were able to do before. But unfortunately, I think this is going to be a series of events, like you're just saying, Colin, where we're going to see a lot more players from the East and the West, and for key teams last year that made key additional players acquisitions in the offseason are now going to see a lot more injuries. We're going to see kind of what happened in the NFL. You barely had time to practice. Look at the NFL, which is a physical quality game where you have to practice. You already have lack of practice. Look exactly what happened this season. The entire course was almost changed in the NFL, and I think we're going to kind of see that in the NBA here. Yes, you can say that specific injury is a fake injury, 2 to 5 weeks. I think this is a team that was potentially on the rise, and maybe that could definitely hurt them more now than it would have if it was an 82-game season or if it was extended or not. Even if they started the season in January, I don't think that would change the fact of the matter is the amount of practice time just isn't enough. You don't have that same kind of offseason. You don't have that team chemistry on and off the court due to restrictions and sometimes stay-at-home orders or all these other rules that they have during this time because of COVID. But I think it's unfortunate, but I think we're going to see this series of events of injuries, not necessarily because of they're practicing, they're traveling. It's just not the same offseason, even if, like they said, started in January. And this still would have happened in December or January. I wasn't a fan of it starting in December just because, again, there's still a lot of sports going on. You still have football for the next couple of weeks. And this is about the players. It just seemed to a certain extent, maybe they were thinking about the fans. It's not bad to think about the fans, but think about the players and their health. And just because certain NBA teams were eliminated after the regular season, that does not mean they had a lot more time to practice than teams that didn't even make it to the final cut of the regular season, because due to certain COVID restrictions in certain states being a lot more different, a lot more strict or less lenient, that doesn't mean they got more practice time, if that really makes any sense. So I just think there's just a lot of factors going into it, but I expect a series of injuries moving forward in the NBA.
Now, John, I think you're right, though, because, since March, we've seen a lot of videos of guys, male athletes, female athletes practicing at home by themselves. And like I've said, though, earlier in the shutdown, there's a difference between, practicing with teammates and seeing the live repetition than doing it solo, your dog chasing the ball for you, or, in your backyard or in your living room. You can only do so many, Zoom meetings and Zoom classes and, Zumba workouts and stuff like that on your own, where, game speed cannot be duplicated by yourself or in your backyard usually, or of course with the restrictions in place where you said, though. But I do think, though, that this, I think, does raise some concern, though. Now, again, it's a freak injury because, again, you're talking about Ja Morant stepping on someone's foot, though, and he rolls his ankle pretty severely. But again, though, an injury, though, that could be of much worse. A ripped ACL comes out of that, or even something that's, a non-contact issue like that, I think raises a lot of concerns in my mind as well. A couple of thoughts real quick. James Gonzalez is stopping by to say hello. And he says, again, I wanted the season to start in the middle of January, not now. And again, the NBA, folks, with a 70-day offseason, again, the shortest in all of North American pro sports history. But once more, folks, prayers up for Ja Morant, the young budding star for the Memphis Grizzlies, due to a severely sprained ankle. It's going to be out 3 to 5 weeks, nursing that injury. Over, fellas, in college basketball, perhaps not enough here with this punishment, but the Arizona Wildcats men's basketball program under their head coach, Sean Miller, has officially, fellas, self-imposed a 1-year postseason ban in wake of what we had seen, though, guys, are talked about with 9 different men's basketball programs all caught with scandals of some type in regards to money laundering, benefits to players, paying players under the table, either contracts, negotiations, a lot of things going on, though. We've seen some show cause penalties, a lot of allegations, a lot of notices of allegations. But now, though, guys, we have at least one program kind of taking the consequence, and it's a 1-year postseason ban for the U of A men's basketball program. John, we'll go to you first on this. Now, of course, John, this is not the first time we've talked about an issue like this in college basketball. Mm-hmm. We've had 8 other issues that have, of course, come to the forefront over the course of the entire last several months, though, of, again, more so boosters getting involved, maybe illegal recruiting is going on, as we heard with Florida and their football program, and Dan Mullen and an assistant coach being caught or under fire at least for some illegal recruiting, benefits, contracts with shoe companies. A lot of things have come out, though, over the past 8 or 9 years. Plus, we had the very notorious one of Wichita State, where the players complained of physical and mental abuse and bullying by their head coach at Wichita State. John, your thoughts, though, about seeing a program kind of take the penalty, but also, again, self-impose it for a 1-year postseason ban for Arizona men's basketball?
1 year, he should be fired. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a thing that just happened the last 2 to 3 years. Yes, Arizona got caught, and they're under fire. But there's probably most of the college basketball teams that are doing this under the table. When you see all these Duke and all these teams getting all these top recruits, you think it's just because they're all so great at recruiting 100% of the time. Your recruiting in college basketball is not always going to be 100% elite like you want to every single year. Certain recruits aren't just going to come to your college for whatever reason. But if you have a guy like Arizona, he shouldn't have a job. When I say I don't like to root for a guy to not have a job, but when you cheat, ladies and gentlemen, I have no mercy on you in terms of a job. You knew the rules. You knew it just shows, and I've said this again on the show, and I'll always say it and drill it verbally into people's minds, is that their grass is not always greener on the other side. There is only one way to win, or one way to recruit. Work your what off for what you want. You want your team to win. You want to recruit better, find ways. Because the way that he was doing it and other college basketball organizations have done, but not necessarily been caught yet, it's going to come back to you. It's going to come back to you. It's not like, oh, I violated the rules because I'm one of the baddest in college basketball. No, it is going to come back to you 5 to 10 years from now. We potentially heard that with Zion Williamson and many other college basketball players, like you mentioned. The reports, I guess, I don't know how long ago that was, of verbal or physical abuse from the coach. And if that was ever true, that coach should never have a job. You should be banned from all sports events, college, NFL, NBA, MLB, because this is not a joke. People could say maybe I'm being dramatic. No, you cheat. What do you get caught when you cheat in college for a test or whatever? You're almost gone. This should be the same applied to sports. I don't care how great of an athlete you are. I don't care how great of a coach you are. And this makes me question certain basketball teams of the past. I'm not saying every college team has ever done this. And certain past college NBA teams, when they were great, when they were elite, did they do the recruiting? Did they do every single step the right way? And that's what kind of ruins sports for certain people to a certain extent, especially college basketball, because these athletes are not getting paid. That's why we're not seeing these NCAA games anymore. Because this was the issue even back in the early 2000s, which is why the last NCAA game you had was NCAA 14, because of this very issue. You can't pay athletes, fine. But don't find other ways to do it. This is an absolute unexcused. You should not have a job ever. Because let's say, I'm not saying this is the case. Let's say, he's falsely accused, which obviously is not. They did it. They got caught. Then I could understand him getting another job. But no, you did it. You cheated. Shame on you. And it's not just him that did it. If he did it, some staff members in the organization for Arizona knew exactly what's happening. Folks, if you want to cheat, if you want to do it the wrong way, then you deserve to lose. You deserve to never have a job in the sports world, because this does not come easy. Success in the sports world, Callan, does not come easy. And you don't go down and dirty and do it the wrong way, because sooner or later it's going to catch up to you. And a 1-year ban is absolutely the most basic punishment.
Isaiah, I know that you and I had talked about the Wichita State incident several weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago. Again, you're talking about a coach literally physically abusing, mentally abusing, players. We heard some stories, though, too, from some viewers about Rutgers and their men's basketball program, where if those players got a drill wrong, you had the head coach throwing basketballs at these guys for trying to get them back into, getting snapped back into reality to get it going. So there's 2 instances of that. However, though, Isaiah, we've had 8 other programs, though, over the course of the past several months, though, at least acknowledge that they've been slapped with some type of allegations by the NCAA, show cause penalties. I believe that UConn may have had a few recently, or back early at the start of the pandemic. Then, of course, Carolina's had a few, Duke's had a few. Wichita State came under fire. Oklahoma State came under fire. Now, of course, Arizona came under fire as well. Isaiah, any thoughts here to pass along about at least a program acknowledging that? And then once more, the Arizona Wildcats and Sean Miller get slapped with a self-imposed one-year ban from the postseason. What do you think? Isaiah, you're muted, buddy.
Callan, Sean Miller should have been fired years ago. I mean, the guy is a cheater. The guy is a fraud. He needs to be fired right now. And I think them doing this is them just saving face, because Arizona right now, like James Gonzalez mentioned in his comment, Arizona basketball, they're just not good right now. So they're just like, yeah, we're not a good basketball team, so let's just take the year off and, try again next year for the postseason. Like, this year doesn't mean anything to them. And I feel really bad for the kids, because these kids that signed up to play for Arizona, they don't deserve this, because they're not the ones that got caught like doing this stupid stuff. Sean Miller was the one that got caught. He got caught multiple times on wiretaps, trying to convince players and trying to pay players and give them benefits and all that stuff. He should have been fired a long time ago. I don't know why he's still the coach at Arizona. It makes no sense whatsoever to me. It makes no sense why Arizona still won't fire him and why they keep backing him up. It just makes no sense whatsoever. Arizona, they need to fire him. This is just a slap on the wrist. It's not even it's like a very disgraceful punishment that Arizona put on themselves.
Kind of sounds like me feeling bad for the kids of Indiana who got screwed out of the Big Ten title game. Thanks a lot, Ohio State. Never going to let that one. I'm never letting that one down, regardless of what anyone out there thinks. James does write in, though, to Isaiah's point. The reason Sean Miller did not, or did the ban now, because the team is not as good as years before. This isn't enough punishment. Good man Austin Morrison writes in, Zion was crystal balled to Clemson all along till the last few days of his recruitment. Duke is a great basketball program, don't get me wrong, but it does seem kind of sketch. Morrison, you're on to a great point again, my man. And again, thanks for tuning in and dropping some comments in the box. And James Gonzalez also chimes in to say the blue bloods of college sports need to get investigated more and work on the past sketchy recruits too. I mean, if USC can go back and vacate the BCS title victories and Reggie Bush's Heisman, then I think any other basketball, any other scandal across any other sport, to me, I think James is fair game. But once more, folks, Arizona men's basketball, due to, again, some allegations that we have talked about on here, folks, on the MI6 Sports Network, have in fact self-imposed a one-year postseason ban due to, again, the nature of allegations sent the way of the folks in Tucson. With that, guys, to the final week of the NFL regular season, so much uncertainty. It's going to be a very stressful week of football coming up on Sunday, where teams have to win to get in, or at least have a chance to get to the postseason. However, guys, the big story, though, is in pro football, is in the nation's capital. That, of course, fellas, is Dwayne Haskins Jr. being waived by the Washington football team after both his bad performance on Sunday and, of course, the infamous video of him being at the strip club and him being popped $40,000 and losing his captain's role with the Washington football team. That ends a very rough 2-year stretch for Dwayne Haskins Jr. playing for Washington. And also, more so, I think, sends a clear message, I think, from this Washington football team that they are not going to be messing around anytime soon. Isaiah, give us your reaction to this story, though, and more so, do you pin this more on Haskins Jr.'s antics off the field or his play over his time in Washington, or is it a combination, buddy, of everything I just mentioned?
Callan, I think it's a combination of everything you just mentioned. I mean, I think his performance last week Sunday against the Carolina Panthers, I think that was just the last straw for Ron Rivera and the Washington football team. I mean, this guy, when he's not been getting in trouble off the field, he's been putting up bad performances on the field. He's just not a good quarterback. I mean, I know people are saying a change of scenery might help him out, but from what I've watched, when I watched Dwayne Haskins play, the guy can't go through his progressions. He doesn't really scan the field properly, and he panics in the pocket when the pressure is coming from the defense. That's not what you want to see from your quarterback. I think Dwayne Haskins should have stayed another year at Ohio State. I get the fact that he was projected to be a first-round pick, but you can clearly see now that he didn't have the maturity for the NFL, and he just wasn't ready, not just, mentally, but he wasn't ready physically for the NFL because he can't read the field. He can't go through progressions. He can't do the things that you need to see from your quarterback to be successful in the NFL. Because let's remember, NFL defenses are way much advanced and way more faster than they are in college football. You can feast on college football defenses, but then when you go to the NFL, you better have all the tools and all the requisites to be a good quarterback, or else you're going to be toasted in the NFL. And Dwayne Haskins showed that. And, I think the combination of him getting in trouble off the field plus his bad performance, got him his pink slip out of Washington.
John, I can share the Dwayne Haskins story basically of someone who is great on the field but has problems off the field. And that is a great, a loyal, good family friend of my family. That is former Padre first-round draft pick Matt Bush. Matt was a teammate of my brother's in high school. And, of course, Matt had a lot of issues away from the field, but was gifted as a shortstop. He had a very great renaissance story after two very, very terrible run-ins with the law, maybe more than that, though, but notably had a couple of them, though, with drunk driving and alcohol abuse. And he got himself back on track with the Rangers about 2 or 3 or 4 years ago and kind of, in a way, got himself in the spotlight in a good way. Dwayne Haskins, for me, is kind of sadly falling into Matt's footsteps, where I have long said, though, that when you take kids from college or even high school and you make them pro athletes, you make them professional athletes, why is there not somebody like a mentor, not necessarily a tutor, but like an escort to kind of show these guys the right way to do things and not go out and, have a fake ID and go into bars at age 18 and start up trouble and get themselves in trouble? And that's what I think, though, is what pro sports desperately needs is, not really like a community, but like someone on that ball club maybe, or someone in the front office who is like a guidance officer maybe. I don't know if that's really like what I would say, though, but someone, though, that needs to be there for these young kids that are, out of high school, out of college, and say, hey, as a reminder, do things the right way. Yeah, you're in the pros now, but don't do anything stupid, basically. But I think, though, that Isaiah is right, though, and also I think that more so that my point is right, though. For me, though, it's a combination of, sadly, run-ins off the field and also lackluster play, though. And maybe as well, though, that it probably becomes like, oh, I'm playing with, Washington. I'm in a very bad market. Yeah, they were great at one point. The owner's an idiot. He didn't want to change all that stuff that's going on. But I think, though, that there is definitely something up here, whether it's on the field, away from the field, but that Dwayne Haskins needs a change of scenery. And I don't know if that really flushes his problems away right away. But to me, though, it helps because I've been a firm believer my entire time playing sports and analyzing sports, broadcasting sports. If a player is not doing great in one market and they go somewhere else, they usually play better. Maybe not right away, but they seem to, have fun again playing their games. But more so, John, where do you stand on this? Back to my original question, is this more about Dwayne Haskins on the field, Dwayne Haskins off the field, or a combination of both in your mind?
I think it is both. Now, again, I understand if a team or an organization does not want you and you don't want to give your all. I get that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is even before his rookie year. GQ does a thing with young athletes called How I Spent My First $1 Million. And guess who was on that video? Dwayne Haskins. So early on, we just saw the habit of money he's not understanding. And I wish we had that for more people. There was a couple of old NFL players that were talking about this. And this is a big thing, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you look at college, high school, and football now, a lot of guys only stay 1 to 2 years, if even that, because it doesn't benefit them. Imagine if Dwayne Haskins stayed an extra year or two, because he's had, 50 TDs to 8 interceptions in 2018. Imagine if he stayed another year and only had 3,500 yards and 32 TDs to 12 interceptions. His draft stock would go down, so that wouldn't make him or his agent look as good. I get that. I'm going to be very careful of what I say. But what I will say, though, this is not a surprise from Dwayne Haskins. He showed up before his rookie year when he's on that cheeky video, said how he spent his first $1 million. We need to look at one specific player we don't talk about is Rob Gronkowski. And I know that, he's a party boy. He gets the job done. He works hard, so it is tolerated. Also, dude, you're a grown man. If you have to have you-know-what at it going to where he went, this is not an excuse. You're a grown man. You're going – it just shows that he cares more about his individual needs than he does getting better at a sport that we thought he was passionate about. We thought he was passionate about playing football. I'm not saying this is completely similar, but it's very similar individual situations wrapped together with Jamarcus Russell. Very great talent in college, maybe had a good arm in college. The numbers showed up in college, but in the NFL was just plain lazy. No, am I rooting for Dwayne Haskins? Yes, but bro, come and go. These are 32 starting jobs in the NFL. They come and go, just like an Amazon wish list during Christmas. I just don't understand what was going through his mind. What's stopping him now? Not being waived. Now he's officially a free agent. What's stopping him now? Let's say that he's not going to care about his individual needs. You put your needs, again, we all have issues we need to work on. I get it. But when you put your individual needs above the team, despite I know they don't want you, I know that it sucks. But when you put your own individual needs above the team, above the players that you're supposed to have this brotherhood, you're supposed to fight for on the field. And on top of that, you're fighting to win the NFC East, to play in the playoffs. And this is what you do. We all can celebrate however we want, but that's definitely not a way you should ever celebrate. But you have nothing to celebrate about. And what delusional mind do you think that, this is a good idea to do that? This could damage not just your career, obviously it damaged your career with Washington, but moving forward. The biggest thing with starting quarterbacks after they had issues was trust. How is an organization going to be able to trust you? Were you sorry that you did it or sorry that you got caught? So I guarantee you this wasn't the first time this year or his rookie year, way before COVID started. And on top of that, somebody made Shannon Sharp, who I don't necessarily agree with a lot, but made a good point. Ron Rivera, how many weeks did he have of chemo? His immune system, where I'm pretty sure Ron Rivera beat chemo, that he did that while being a head coach in the NFL. And you put your coach in that circumstance with Alex Smith, and you're going to a strip club. That tells me you don't care about your head coach. You don't care about your teammates. You just care about your individual self. Can he learn from this and grow and change? Yes. But this just shows right now where his responsibilities are.
Definitely. A very unfortunate situation, if you ask me, where, again, like I said about Josh Gordon, it's sadly a player who's great on the field, but just has those issues that they can't get over off the field of play. Guys, plenty of commentary, though, from the MI6 faithful. James first writes in, I didn't think he'd be released with one game left in the season. Washington probably tried everything to make him play better, but it's on Haskins Jr. He's just that bad in his mind. Austin Morrison chimes in, I do believe that Haskins needs to go somewhere where he is not close to home. I feel like he is a little too comfortable being close to home. Needs to go somewhere where he is solely focused on football. Valid point. Tyler Workfellows writes in, he says, Ryan Leaf, yikes, said it was like looking into a mirror when talking about the Dwayne Haskins Jr. situation. If that is not a massive warning flag, I don't know what is. Very valid point from Mr. Work. Also, Austin chimes back in. Haskins just needs a chance in the right system. Obviously going to ride Haskins because he's a OSU guy like me. I just didn't think that Dwayne was going to fit from the time he got drafted by Washington. And further, James also says, sadly, pro organizations don't care about their players enough to watch out for them. Remember, teams hire spies to spy on high-paid players to see what they do wrong if they do. To me, it's the way the player was raised and how they mature as they get to the next level. Valid points again from James Gonzalez. Tyler Work also chimes back in. This does bring up a good question, though, about Buckeye quarterbacks, fellas. They have great success in college, but when was the last Buckeye QB that had any success in the NFL? Question mark. Certainly not Maurice Claret, that's for sure.
I don't think there is any. If there is, it's a long, long time ago. Not in my lifetime, at least.
It's a very valid question.
I can think of Terrell Pryor, but he didn't play quarterback. They played receiver, right? I think he switched to receiver.
Yeah, but I think Tom's looking for like an actual starting quarterback, I'd say, though, more so than a guy that was a QB then became a converted option on offense. But, I mean, yeah, it's definitely not a good time for the Buckeyes. And I think Tyler's right, though. You know, when was the last Buckeye quarterback that had success in the NFL? I mean, if anyone out there probably has any suggestions, drop in the chat box. We'll read some of those off as more time does move on. But as mentioned, folks, Dwayne Haskins Jr. officially waived by the Washington football team, of course, in wake of both bad play and also the incident of him being seen at a strip club in Seattle without a mask over the course of the week. With that, Isaiah, over to you, though, man, to start off this next topic, because you had brought this up somewhat on a very late edition of one of your gazillion shows that you do on your own on Monday night yesterday. That, of course, is some interesting news, though, Isaiah, concerning former Boise State quarterback and now, I believe, Cowboys offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, who may, in fact, be looking at a head coaching position at his alma mater. As a reminder, folks, that Brian Harsin, the head coach of the Broncos, is now on his way from the Mountain West to the SEC and coaching at Auburn as of next season. So, Isaiah, to start this off to you, should Kellen Moore stay in Dallas or become the next head coach for his alma mater at Boise State University? What say you? Isaiah, you're on mute, buddy.
Sorry about that. Well, Kellen Moore. Well, let's look at it. Kellen Moore, you know, he is 50-3, or he was 50-3 as the quarterback of Boise State. He is very beloved there. I mean, they treat him like a god there at Boise State. He is a terrific young offensive mind. He's bright. He's innovative. He's a great play designer, great game planner, great play caller. And the Cowboys offense, in the 2 years that he's been calling the plays for them and designing the plays and, you know, designing the game plan, the Cowboys, their offense, they're ranked in the top 5 in his 2 years as offensive coordinator. So, you know, I think he can get a head coaching job this offseason, though I don't know if he will, because there's a lot of candidates out there that would be vying for those jobs. But if I'm Kellen Moore, I would go to Boise simply because, yes, you might be able to get a job this offseason as a head coach, but it's kind of like a 50-50 toss-up because there's just way too many candidates. If you go to Boise, you're going to have a long leash there to set that program up for success. You're also going to be able right away because Boise State has been the top dog in the Mountain West for their entire time in the Mountain West Conference. I just think that with the low pressure, the longer leash, and the fact that Kellen Moore will be very beloved there and he's going to be given every chance to succeed, and Boise's a top team in the Mountain West, I think Kellen Moore should make that move from Dallas back to his alma mater at Boise.
By the way, I wanted to clarify or at least add on to Tyler's question about the last great Ohio State quarterback. The list I read of the 12 QBs that have been drafted from Ohio State, all 12 have flopped, fellas, including Cardell Jones, who fell, guys, into the XFL in 2016 after his time at Ohio State. So certainly, Tyler, all 12 that are notable did not have a very good NFL career. But with that, though, John, over to you, though, about this question again. Should Kellen Moore remain the coordinator on the offensive side of the ball for the Cowboys or go back to his alma mater and become the head coach for Boise State?
How about them Cowboys? Let him go. Let him go. You find success and you let a guy go, which would be great because it's more means about the Dallas Cowboys. But no, I don't think Kellen Moore is a great offensive coordinator because, again, this is what we call empty calorie stats. You see this coffee cup right here. Looks good, but it's empty. Look, the outside is like all these numbers in the top offensive stats. You're number 3 offense in the league or number 1 offense in the league. What sounds great on the outside looks great. When you look on the inside, that doesn't result in wins and losses, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what really matters. You can have the number 1 offense. But what did that get him? Did they make the playoffs last year? Again, I'm not saying he's bad, but he's certainly not great. But it makes sense. It's not just about going back to where you're familiar from. They loved you there. Look what you did at Boise State. I mean, when you look at Boise State quarterbacks in the past 10, 15 years, they don't get a lot of attention. He was one of those very few quarterbacks. You would be loved there. You would get like a John Gruden type of situation where you get a lot of control. You've been there. You did what you did there at Boise State. And it makes sense more for Kellen Moore to go back to Boise State, but it makes more sense for Dallas to keep him. But knowing what Dallas is going to do when they potentially have something good, they always mess it up, especially with potentially having to sign who in free agency in 2021.
I would probably agree, though, guys, about him moving on to Boise State because, for one, the job is open, and I think as well that Callan is probably ready to make that jump, too, from coordinator to head coach. But I do think, though, there is a bit of that transitional gap, though, between, pros, obviously, now you're going back to college, but also I have a bit of maybe some very small concern, though, guys, because I usually say, though, that usually former players don't make great coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches, stuff like that. But now I think, though, that for one, it helps, though, for one, Boise State alum is mentioned, the guy that kind of got Boise that national publicity many years ago. And thirdly, it's a perfect marriage, if you ask me again, a Boise State alum leaving the Dallas Cowboys to go coach, be the head coach, the guy in charge of his alma mater. This is, this to me seems to be a very great marriage, perhaps that could in fact come between both, between Boise State and Kellen Moore. And James agrees. Kellen Moore should go to Boise State to become their next head coach. Isaiah, we'll go to you on this next one again, as we know that there's probably going to be a lot of head coaching vacancies coming up post the final game of the night on Sunday coming up this week. That, of course, though, Isaiah has Urban Meyer now in the rumor mill for NFL head coaching positions, not a college job. So, Isaiah, should Urban Meyer leave college or leave the Fox Sports television studio and go to the NFL to take a head coaching position, yay or nay?
Yes, Urban Meyer should definitely go to the NFL. And the reason Meyer is a legendary college coach, he's already accomplished everything that there needs to be accomplished in college. He's done everything in college. So why not go to the NFL and try something new? That's why I think Urban Meyer should go to the NFL. If it doesn't work out in the NFL and you get let go, it won't really stain your resume, because look at Nick Saban. Nick Saban was a great college head coach. He went to the NFL, tried it out. It didn't work out. Went back to Alabama. Does anybody Saban's NFL days? No, nobody talks about Nick Saban's NFL days. They just talk about everything that he's accomplished, whether it was at Michigan State or LSU or now at Alabama. That's the same thing that's going to happen with Urban Meyer. He can try it out. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, then you know what? Then he can go back to college and he can be at peace saying that he tried the NFL game and he's. Ladies and gentlemen, Urban Meyer, if he does go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which apparently they're seriously quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, a once-in-a-generational talent in Trevor Lawrence. So I think Urban Meyer should definitely head to the NFL. I think it's a good move for him, and I really hope he does it, and I'm rooting for him to succeed with either the Jaguars or the Lions or whoever gets him.
John, I will say this, though, is we have seen coaches that are great college coaches make that jump to professional sports, and it usually does not go very well. All I have to say is Saban, John Calipari, Rick Pitino for a bit in the NBA. The only one I think that really panned out for me going from player to coach, or from college to the pro level, I should say, coaching, was Brad Stevens, who was coaching at Butler, now, of course, is in charge of the Boston Celtics. It really does not, to me, I don't think it really works out very well when coaches, and also I'd say, though, for coaches that have been away from the game for so long. It doesn't really help matters out either. I don't see Urban Meyer going to the NFL. I think he's right now pretty content with the Fox Sports TV deal he's got, with the millions he's getting paid from Fox. I think he's probably waiting more so for a college spot. But I don't see him going to the NFL because I think more so for me, it's the amount of time he's been away from coaching the game right now, where I think he would say no thanks at this rate. But John, what do you think though? Should Urban Meyer pursue a coaching job in the NFL, yay or nay?
Again, folks, just because something sounds great on, if I don't have a piece of paper, but just because something sounds great on paper doesn't mean it's going to work out. And no, if I were Urban Meyer, why would I? I got a great, cushy job. I get paid millions of dollars to talk about what I love. I can spend more time with my family during the season and after the season. Folks, college versus the NFL is two different things. That can be either taken as a positive or negative thing. When we say stay in your lane or know what you do, that is not a negative thing. We each individual of ourselves have a skill set of what we're good at. That doesn't mean him not going to the NFL or going to the NFL and doesn't succeed. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I guess I see some of the comments said Pete Carroll going from USC to Seattle. I mean, that's a very good point. But like I said, but like we're saying right here, Callan, there wasn't like a huge separation of time from coaching from USC to Seattle. Because towards the end of USC, they started losing. They weren't able to do their things. So boom, went to the NFL. It wasn't like this 2 to 3 year gap from coaching college then to the NFL. So I just think it sounds great. But if he didn't want to take a job in college, at least for UT, does that really increase his chances going to the NFL? And if he does go to Jacksonville, which I doubt at this point, Doug Marrone is going to be fired. Because if he wasn't fired in 2017 or 2018 or 2019, he's not going to be fired in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I probably agree, though, that there are those college coaches that some do pan out, but I think 9 times out of 10, they don't pan out again. Calipari, Pitino, mainly those two in basketball. Football-wise, there's probably many there that probably have, tried and failed. But again, there's been a couple that have, in fact, gone up to the pro level and have succeeded. James Gonzalez, guys, writes in first. He says Urban Meyer would be interesting in the NFL. Austin Morrison added on, as mentioned, Pete Carroll going from USC to Seattle. Very great there, as it's been with the Seahawks recently. And also James says, how about Dick Vermeil, successful college coach and also a successful time in the NFL as well. And James also says Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville would make news, but I don't know how good the results would be. Isaiah, back over to you.
I don't think the Pete Carroll comparison is fair when discussing Urban Meyer, because Pete Carroll was originally a coach in the NFL before he went down to college. The reason why he went down to college is because he was a failure in the NFL. I think he had like 2 head coaching stints after being a defensive coordinator for the 49ers, and he failed both times. He got fired both of those times. So that's why he went to college, and then boom, he was very, very successful at USC, and then he went to the NFL, got a job. That's kind of like what Jim Harbaugh was attempting to do. Urban Meyer, he's never coached at the NFL level. He's only coached at the collegiate level. So I think for me, if you're going to compare Urban Meyer to I don't really think there has been an Urban Meyer type coach that has been very, very successful in his entire time at college and just stayed at college for his entire coaching career, and then all of a sudden jumps up to the NFL. I mean, I can't really think of one off the top of my head. I don't know if you guys, John, Callan, I don't know if you guys can think of one. I mean, Bill O'Brien might be one, but he was the Patriots offensive coordinator, I believe, when they went to the Super Bowl. So I can't think of one in terms of Urban Meyer. But John, to your point about Doug Marrone, Ian Rappaport, I think, reported couple of days ago that it's just a matter of time that Doug Marrone gets fired in Jacksonville because they already changed the GM. So it just makes sense that you just clean house instead of hiring a GM this year and then next year firing the coach and making that GM work with a coach for another year.
I don't think the Pete Carroll defensive coordinator is a fair comparison because we're talking head coaches who are going from college to the pros, not a coach who was at the NFL level in a different role than a head coaching position. So I don't think that comparison is fair in my mind, Isaiah. I get it about he had experience, but it's not the same as having head coaching experience. Again, this isn't Calipari. This isn't Patino going from college to the pros and then back because they couldn't win in the NFL. Yeah, he was, Carroll was fired twice as a coordinator, but not as the head coach of a ball club. So I don't fully buy into the narrative about him failing once or twice as a coordinator because it wasn't him failing as a head coach in a market or two. I catch the drift though, but to me, it's not a fair comparison in regards to, again, Meyer and Carroll, and once more with them having different coaching tags. With that, though, guys, the Pittsburgh Steelers will start their backup coming up this upcoming Sunday, as they already have wrapped up the AFC North Division title. That, though, guys, is a very interesting sidebar story for this game. It is Mason Rudolph facing the Cleveland Browns coming up on Sunday. Of course, guys, we know what happened a couple of seasons ago between him and Myles Garrett getting into a very physical shoving match. Of course, we saw Garrett rip the helmet off of Mason Rudolph's head and clock him across the side of the head with it during a primetime game. Of course, Isaiah, a lot riding on this game, mainly for Cleveland. It is a win or go home situation and them trying to break the NFL's longest active playoff drought of 18 seasons, having to play the longtime rival Steelers, but more so, the Steelers are playing their backup quarterback in this ball game. But of course, some history adding to this rivalry between these two ball clubs. With that in mind, Isaiah, your thoughts on the Steelers starting Rudolph, but more so Rudolph against Cleveland again after what we saw a couple of years ago?
Well, Callan, my thoughts on this is that, first of all, the Cleveland Browns, there is no excuses if you lose this game. You better not lose this game. You have to win this game because, first of all, you are fighting for your playoff lives while the Pittsburgh Steelers are sitting all their starters for this game to get ready for the playoffs. So if you lose this game, there's just no excuses to lose this game. And secondly, Mason Rudolph, when he's played for Big Ben Roethlisberger, he hasn't really looked that good. He's looked like your typical backup quarterback. And, Myles Garrett, I'm pretty sure that Myles Garrett has learned from what happened last year when he clocked Mason Rudolph in the head with the helmet. So I don't think he's going to do it all over again. But this is, I think, for me, more about the Browns. You better win this game because if you don't win this game, you don't deserve to make the playoffs. After you lose to the Jets and now you lose to the Steelers backups, no way.
John, I would agree with Isaiah, though, man, is that, in a way, it's like you have a golden opportunity. You are trying your damnedest to break the NFL's longest active playoff drought. You're talking 2002, I believe, for the last time the Browns were in the postseason. In retrospect, I was in second grade. That's how long it's been, my friend, with how the Browns have not made the postseason. But of course, now it's more so about Pittsburgh kind of taking, the last week off, saying, hey, maybe it's a rollover play dead situation, like with Mason Rudolph starting. But I do think, though, it adds a sidebar, though, that, hey, Myles Garrett has history with Mason Rudolph, and there was some beef there, about a year or so ago. But more so for me, all the pressure, I think Isaiah's right, though, all the pressure is solely on Cleveland. You have the chance of a lifetime to give that fan base, the factory of sadness, a chance to flip the frowns from being upside down to up. And, finally, 18 years of losing is over with. But, of course, it has to be a game against Pittsburgh that you have got to get the job done. John, your thoughts on the move by both by the Steelers and also, more so about this game and how much is, really, though, John, how much pressure do you really think that was on the Browns coming up on Sunday against Pittsburgh at home?
Folks, and I say this to my podcast, it doesn't matter who you're playing, it doesn't matter if you're playing the backup or the third stringer. And this is the literal sense, and even if it wasn't, take every single game seriously like a playoff elimination game, no matter what week it is. And at least in this situation, this is literally a playoff elimination game. I'm rooting for Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield, Kareem Hunt. These guys, there's no excuse, and there's going to be a lot of emotions, positive or negative. You lose against Mason Rudolph, the backup quarterback. Baker Mayfield could potentially be on the long list of Browns quarterbacks on that jersey. I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, the whole team. I want them to win. Again, it's because I feel bad at it. I feel bad for Browns fans. And Ryan, your team definitely deserves this win. But also, Isaiah, please do not jinx the Cleveland Browns. Just kidding. But there's no reason why the Browns should lose this game. Because if they lose this game, which I don't think they will, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, these guys, they're going to get it done. You have Jarvis Landry back. You have your starting tight end, Austin Hooper. You have all these pieces back from dudes last week because due to potential contact with somebody that could have potentially had COVID or didn't have COVID. You have all the pieces together. If you don't win it, it's going to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations, but I have no doubt in my mind this whole team from the running game, Nick Chubb, all these guys, Baker Mayfield, they're going to get it done. The light switch hopefully is switched. You're like, oh my gosh, just of course the other word, but oh my gosh. We gave these fans hope, and we don't want to let them down.
You know, we're going to be talking about my hometown Padres in a second to talk some baseball as we finally have some hot stove news in Major League Baseball. But I share the sentiments of the great people of Cleveland, who, much like San Diego, you have been starving for a winner. You had the Cavs in 2016. You had the Indians come ever so close in the World Series that season. And now, of course, Cleveland, I believe you live and die with the Browns. Much like we here in San Diego live and die with the Padres, because the Chargers, of course, are gone now in LA. We haven't had basketball here in in a long time and stuff of that caliber. But believe me, to Ryan Schreiner and the people of Cleveland, I'm rooting for you heavily. As someone who is in the same boat as you, struggling to find a winning franchise, and of course you live and die with the Browns like I live and die with my Padres, I feel your pain, believe me. And I'm hoping and praying for you guys on Sunday to, just play it, don't leave the field with any regrets. Play your heart out, win that ball game. Obviously, the backup quarterback is in, again, folks, in Mason Rudolph for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, Cleveland, I'm rooting for you. I don't know about these two buffoons in the stream this evening, but definitely, at least I am rooting for the Browns on Sunday at this rate. I'm
rooting for the Browns.
John, what do you got?
We talk about Baker Mayfield. I've been his fan since not
all three of us,
because again, it's a rival of UT. But I'm rooting for them. Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield. I believe in this whole team. I say if they stick to their bread and butter, they're a top 5-6 team in the NFL if they can stick to that.
Easily, for sure. With that, guys, plenty of thoughts here surrounding this ball game. Tyler Work first writes in to say, Mason Rudolph versus the Browns Part 2. Fox is going to get Bruce Buffer to do the pregame introductions. That would be great. It's time. It'd be great if that actually happened. James Gonzalez also writes, the Browns will win. Nothing will happen between Garrett and Rudolph because there's so much at stake for Garrett and Cleveland. Tyler agrees, though, guys, that all the pressure is on the Browns. If the Steelers lose, they still have a home playoff game. If the Browns lose, they need the Colts to lose to Jacksonville. Yikes. That is not, I don't think, going to happen at this rate. But again, folks, Mason Rudolph will be the man in charge of the quarterback operations for the Steelers on Sunday when they face off with the Cleveland Browns on Sunday in Cleveland, Ohio. With that, Isaiah, we finally, got some baseball to talk about after a very, very, very boring and lackluster offseason. And to no one's surprise, probably, but the San Diego Padres are once again, Isaiah, wheeling and dealing for the second offseason in roughly a 5-year stretch. Of course, Isaiah, that is the Padres landing Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, and his personal catcher, Victor Caratini, in 2 separate trades made over the course of a 1-day stretch. And also the Padres signing Korean second baseman Ha-Seung Kim. So 3 Padre players picked up, or 4 players picked up in barely 2 days. And I think Isaiah has given baseball the biggest splash so far in the offseason for what, of course, as we have said, though, folks, so many times, though, in a offseason, of course, that has been very quiet because of teams kind of perhaps playing, kind of staying pat more so with, again, the revenue not being there from the past season and stuff of that caliber, with, again, no fans and some fans being able to go to games more, so the debt also being accumulated throughout the course of the season. But with that, though, in mind, I will tell you folks firsthand that it's been a very insane couple of days, 2 days here in San Diego to at least try to get the news out there and wrap your head around everything that has, in fact, gone on. But again, folks, let's kind of lay this out real quick here as Isaiah is once again dealing with tech problems. The Padres first, though, folks, swing the trade for Blake Snell from the Rays for Luis Patino and 3 other minor league prospects. Then, of course, the Padres put the wheels in motion to sign Ha-Seong Kim, a second baseman from the KBO, who I think we've got a pretty good dose of if you're a baseball fan out there watching the Korean League during the course of the pandemic shutdown over in Korea. And then also the Padres, in fact, make the trade official today on this Tuesday for Yu Darvish and also as well for Victor Caratini here on this Tuesday. But I do think, though, folks, that but more so, I'll kind of get away from about what it means for the Padres right now, but more so for baseball right now. During a time, though, where we're kind of getting close to a crossroads right now with, labor disputes probably on the horizon, players and owners still bickering after what happened this past season with the whole, the 60-game season and stuff like that. But at a time, though, where baseball needs to get back on its feet, and again, it's been a very painfully slow couple of months for baseball fans waiting to see their teams make moves. And again, would anyone, though, really make that first major move on the chessboard? Because, again, the no revenue, lack of revenue, not much revenue, or again, just no revenue in general. Who's going to be out there really actually spending that money, $200 million or a lot of that money being spent on any players, though, because of the entire previous season that we have sat through in regards to, again, no fans, no revenue from ticket sales and merchandise and stuff like that. And more so as well with the lack of revenue coming, as we've already have said, though, but that we finally, though, get the first major news finally, as we in fact get Isaiah in due to, again, those tech problems. But again, Isaiah, a very chaotic couple of days for baseball. More so, Isaiah, forget that the Padres make moves, though. Chaotic, but at the same time, though, a great time if you're a baseball fan, because now you're seeing, though, man, despite there being no fans, teams are not afraid, though, to spend money. But of course, Isaiah, the Padres, again, Blake Snell, Victor Caratini, Yu Darvish, Ha-Seong Kim, 4 players in about a day span. The Padres, again, do not touch their top 5 prospects, and I think have somewhat closed the gap a bit with the Dodgers. It's going to be a very close race, but I still think, though, that this division favors Los Angeles. But it's not going to be like how it was, though, the past several years where the Dodgers win this division by 10 games or 20 games. It's going to be very close and down to the wire. But I do, in fact, think, though, Isaiah, that the Padres are putting the chips in place, though. And this, I read this, I think, today, Isaiah, from AJ Cassavell, or our beat writer from MLB.com, that basically put it in a very great way, though. The Padres in 2015 tried it, though, but they went the veteran route and basically sold the farm. Now it was basically 3 to 5 years of rebuild the farm and then go out and get your Hosmers and your Machados of the world. Then, of course, the trade deadline comes and you have your Nolas come over, your Clevingers come over, and that A.J. Preller is added again, though. But, of course, the big question, though, Isaiah, that I think everyone has, including myself, will this be the Padres 2015 2.0? Kemp, Upton, Myers, Norris, Middlebrooks, and Shields. Do these moves, again, kind of put the Padres back more so? But I think that this is a different time, though, where, again, the Padres, again, will not have Clevinger for next season due to the Tommy John surgery. Maybe news about Dinelson Lamet and his elbow. But more so, Isaiah, what do you make, though, of the first major moves made over the baseball offseason, man? And it's once again A.J. Preller. I don't think this guy sleeps, man, because I think he's up 24/7 wondering, how can I make this trade and not trade away, Gore or, Abrams or one of our top prospects. But Isaiah, more so, Isaiah, as a baseball fan, do these trades surprise you, considering what baseball had to go through over the course of the past 2020 season?
Callan, let me just start with this. John Middleton, John Fisher, the owners of the Phillies and the A's, please, please, please fire Dave Dombrowski, fire Billy Beane, fire everybody in the front office, clean house, and Callan, you might want to put that three-way screen up just so the fans can see your reactions to this. And you might want to put those shades up as well. But Phillies, A's, fire everybody in your front office, fire everybody in your management team, and give AJ Preller some type of ownership stake or whatever, and have him run your guys' front office. I mean, this guy is making moves left and right. Your team, which the Phillies last year missed the playoffs despite having Bryce Harper, who is on a $330 million contract, and the A's, they won the division last year. But while the Padres are doing stuff, the Phillies and the A's have decided, oh, yeah, let's hibernate until February. And then maybe February, we'll check back in to see how the market is. I mean, that's why these two teams will never, ever, ever, ever win another World Series. It's because none of these two teams are aggressive at all. The A's never make any moves because they're so cash-strapped. The Phillies, they're even worse than the A's because they have so much money in the world. They're one of the most premier franchises in all of sports. But yet the Phillies decide, oh, yeah, you know what? Even though we're worth $4 billion, we lost a ton of money from the pandemic, and we're going to sell all of our assets. Let's trade Zach Wheeler. Let's trade Aaron Nola. Let's trade Bryce Harper. Let's trade everybody. I mean, my God, no wonder why it's so damn hard to be a Phillies fan here in this world. I mean, AJ Preller, kudos to you, man. That's why I like in a general manager an aggressive mindset, and that's what he is. He went for it back in 2015. He's going for it now. That's what all general managers should be, and it just makes me pissed off and so ashamed of Dombrowski and Bean for their attitudes of not wanting to be aggressive and always trying to build for the future. Yeah, you're trying to build for the future, but how about trying to win now? How about for a fan that's waited 10, 15, 20, even 30 years to try to win a championship, and you're not doing anything? It just pisses me off. But Callan, in terms of your question about the Padres, I think that this is different from 2015 because back in 2015, it was all about hitters for the San Diego Padres. The Padres didn't really have that good of a starting pitching staff. They didn't really have that good of a bullpen back then. And in baseball, to win, you need starting pitching and you need a good bullpen in order to win in the postseason. And you can't just have a great lineup. I mean, the Texas Rangers tried it, and they lost 2 World Series. The Padres tried it in 2015. They didn't make the playoffs. Look at the Angels. They have a great lineup with Trout, with Ohtani, Rendon, and the crew. But the reason why they haven't made the playoffs the last 2 years is because they don't have any good starting pitching. You need good starting pitching in order to win. And this is different because the Padres, instead of focusing on that lineup, they are focusing on that pitching staff. And that's why I think this is different than 2015.
For me, this is way beyond 2015. It was more so build, with veterans and hope it would play out, and it didn't play out. And more so, again, but more so, the difference with this, though, in my mind, is this isn't the Padres selling the farm and the real estate on the farm to get these big name guys. Where more so, it's been rebuild the farm, reload at the farm, and then cherry pick. We'll give this guy. Again, the Padres, I think, dealt away 7 prospects over the course of or 6 or 7 prospects over the course of the last 2 days, and none of them were in the top part or like the upper echelon of their minor league system, where, again, Gore's not touched, Abrams isn't touched, and also for the Padres' sake, Will Myers and Jake Cronenworth, 2 guys that were big cogs on that lineup and for that team last season, weren't affected either. But also more so, Isaiah, and for that matter, Alcorn as well, though, is that the Padres, though, have made these moves for guys that have team control over the next 2 to 3 to 4 year window. So I do think, though, that the moves are great. The moves are spectacular. And again, it kind of gives me 2015 vibes a bit, though, but more so that this is a different type of flurry of moves made by AJ Preller. And I think that already this guy should be getting Executive of the Year award for how things are going right now with the Padres, and getting Blake Snell from Tampa Bay for one major league player from last season in Luis Patino, and 3 to 4 other minor league prospects. then trading Zach Davies, a proven veteran starter, and 4 prospects, I believe, to the Cubs for Yu Darvish and his personal catcher, Victor Caratini, plus signing a Korean second baseman, again, Ha-Seong Kim, who I think hit 30 homers in the KBO last season during the pandemic season, but more so already to go in with Machado, Tatis Jr., Eric Hosmer, and Trent Grisham, and of course, all the cast and crew. And I think, though, Isaiah, as well, man, that Blake Snell had his introductory press conference via his, I think FaceTime or with Zoom today. And I think that there was something I kind of caught, though, with Blake Snell today on Tuesday, talking to the San Diego media and talking to baseball media, is that, that people obviously have looked at the Padres as a doormat. And I think it's very well noted, though. They've been that way or were that way for basically all their franchise history. You're talking about a franchise who has been cheap notoriously for dealing away, Gary Sheffield, the Gary Sheffields of the world and the Fred McGriffs of the world back in the 90s. And, ownership changes and being notoriously cheap, like Oakland for a bit, or like, for example, like your A's. And that they have never been looked upon as that franchise or that team that, really injects fear into you. 2020 may have been with the Padres, perhaps. Again, folks, here, that perhaps here is the word I'll use, is perhaps this franchise may have turned the corner. Because I think it all started, Isaiah, you would agree, with the Tatis Jr. 3-0 Grand Slam swing against the Rangers. That, of course, sets off the Slam Diego Padres. Again, 4 straight games with slams against the Rangers. They had 5 in 6 days. But more so, the swagger, the excitement, and again, people have crapped upon the Padres more so because of how these guys play the game in regards to like the chip on the shoulder mentality. We're going to go out there and play our best and maybe bend the rules a little bit. I think, though, Isaiah, especially though with baseball, how baseball in the modern day has been losing traction with, certain age demographics, that they don't find the game exciting because it's boring or there's no excitement being shown. But that the Padres might be rewriting the script here. Maybe the Dodgers, and I think the Dodgers have a part of that, though, too, with how they played against San Diego in the postseason. In regards to Brusdar Graterol and his celebration after Bellinger robs Tatis Jr., or how Machado threw his bat towards the dugout and just said, let, LFG towards the dugout when he hit a home run. But also that the Padres and Dodgers, to me, are going to be close in the division, but also they are bringing fun into the ball game. And I think that's what has been missing for so long. And I'll throw one more team in there. I don't want to, miss out on Shree. But the Padres, the Dodgers, and the Braves are going to be the 3 best teams in my mind. I'll say it right here and right now. Those are your 3 best teams right now in the National League at this rate. Not Philadelphia, not San Francisco, not Houston, not no one else. San Diego, LAD, and Atlanta, in my mind, are the 3 best teams in the National League to watch right now because of their fun. They got swagger. They're exciting. Those are the 3 things, Isaiah Leung, that baseball has been missing out on for the past decade, probably because of the lack of viewership, the lack of TV revenue, the lack of people that just don't find the game fun. Because if you do have fun, you're getting beamed or you're getting yelled at from the opposing dugout. But I think, though, that's what is missing. We don't have Yankees, Red Sox in the 2000s with Veritek and A-Rod punching each other at home plate, or, the benches clearing, and, of course, Pedro and Don Zimmer. Isaiah, do you agree, though, with that logic that the Padres more so, and again, I think the Dodgers are also close, though, that the Padres, in a way, are kind of bringing fun and swagger back into baseball, is what Blake Snell said during his introductory press conference on Tuesday evening?
Well, Callan, are we sure that one of the teams that will be most fun to watch isn't the Phillies next season? Because I remember, I don't know if you saw in one of our episodes, I think it was on No BS, I went on live and proclaimed the Phillies are back. I don't know if we have that video or not, but about, your question, I completely agree with you. I think that the Braves, the Padres, and what was the other team? The Dodgers, yes. They are bringing back fun to the game. They're bringing the swagger back to the game. And honestly, I liken these 3 teams or 2 of these 3 teams at least, to the Golden State Warriors of 2015, the team that really innovated the game of basketball. That Warriors team, they weren't like the most talented team in the NBA, but they were homegrown. They had great chemistry. They played with a lot of joy. They had so much fun on and off the court with each other. And that's what I think the Padres, the Braves, and the Dodgers are. You can see the chemistry is there. They play with a lot of joy on the field. They have fun on the field and off the field as well. They are very good with the fans as well. They're just really, really good people. And I really liken them to that team. And I just think that, you're right. The Padres, the Braves, and the Dodgers, they're changing how baseball is played, and they're making it more fun for the game, making it okay to have fun.
Now, I will say, folks, that the Dodgers, in my mind, are still the favorites. They're going to be the favorites for a while still. But the Padres, I think they're close. They're getting closer by the season. I think that more so, I have to applaud Andy Green, because Andy Green was, of course, the Padres manager for a bit. He got blown out, though, because of the team playing terrible. But Andy Green, though, had a very great mindset, I think, before his firing with San Diego, when asked about a bit of a scuffle that him and Dave Roberts had during the course of a game, I want to say 2017, 2018, that Andy Green basically said, yeah, they've been beating up on us, but more so it's on us to start winning games. And that translates to winning series. And that translates, and it kind of in a way builds and builds and builds. That while Andy didn't have a very good tenure here in San Diego, that quote, though, in regards to, you have to kind of, in a way, build up to kind of beating that team, that he was kind of right, though. At the same time, some wrestling legend named Ric Flair once said, to be the man, you've got to beat the man. Okay, the Padres have 7 games in the first month of the season against the boys in blue from up in LA, 3 at home, 4 on the road, and also 2 critical series at the end of the season in September. There's going to be fireworks in that series for sure, though, but more so, again, folks, if you're a baseball fan or if not, definitely some good times here to see how things have been. And, John, I will bring you in on this one because we know that you're not really the biggest baseball fan. But I think, John, you probably have heard me and Isaiah go back and forth here over the past 10 or 15 or 20 minutes or so. You're hearing about a team in sports who, in a way, has been, again, notorious for losing and not really being a very, not known for being great. But now they're kind of building towards being great. They, again, have their first playoff berth in over 10 plus years. Last season, their first winning record in over a decade. And that they have gotten some great talent in regards to some star players, a very young, budding, energetic superstar. Now they're adding to it, though, in a span of a day, though. But more so, John, like we said, though, again, about how the Padres play the game with, some swagger, some confidence. Again, probably rubbing people the wrong way, though. John, as someone that doesn't really like the game or that watches baseball, would a team like this kind of bring people like yourself into the sport because of how of how this ball club, for one, is run, but also how they play the game as well?
It probably would, and I'll be honest, for a long time I thought baseball was the most boring sport in the world, but I think it would give me at least a chance to watch a game or two, because when I say I don't know nothing about baseball, I know nothing about it. So I think that could be interesting, and this is what you need for a lot of teams. MLB, basketball, college football, college basketball. You need that fun. You need the energy. Yes, it is a game. Yes, you need to be professional, but you also need to have a lot of fun. Like I was saying about Golden State. They weren't the most talented team, but they were having fun. You had what you call the Splash Brothers when they had success. This is definitely exciting, what you need in all sports. And we can maybe give me a chance to watch a game or two about baseball, and I just see how I feel about baseball and a couple of games.
And I do think, folks, again, to reiterate once more, but I still have the Dodgers right now winning the NL West until someone can knock them off the perch and 8 straight division titles. But I do think, though, Isaiah, before we in fact get ready to wrap up, though, the Dodgers, to me, I thought about this walking my dog tonight, Isaiah. I thought about this very good walking my dog tonight. The Dodgers, to me, seem to be the 1990s Braves 2.0 right now. You're looking at a team who's won 8 straight division titles and now has won a World Series. Isaiah, in your mind, is it a fair comparison to say that maybe the next 8 years could result in the same fate for the Dodgers as it was for the Braves, though, of 16 straight division titles but only 1 World Championship? What do you think?
That's a very tough question, Callan, because right now, when you look at the Dodgers, right? Yes, I know they have Mookie Betts, they have Cody Bellinger, they have Kershaw locked up. But the Dodgers, they have a lot of free agents this year. Kike Hernandez is a free agent. He's a very important utility guy for them. They also have, I believe, Jock Peterson is a free agent. He's another important piece for them. They also have Blake Trinan, reliever from their bullpen. He's a free agent, as well as Justin Turner, who is their heart and soul of their team. He's a free agent. There's a lot of free agents for them this offseason. And, they have major question marks, especially when it comes to the bullpen. We saw what happened last year with the Dodgers bullpen. I mean, John Mathis was going on a rant literally every single Dodgers game when that Dodgers bullpen, they were blowing leads down the stretch with Kenley Jansen and Blake Trinan and all those other guys. So the Dodgers, they have like a lot of question marks. I wouldn't say right now that they're the they are the 1990s Braves, just because I could see the Padres winning the division next season because of that pitching staff is stacked. That bullpen, if they bring back Rosenthal or if they add Hendricks, their bullpen is going to be stacked. Their lineup is stacked. And for the Dodgers, I know they're coming off winning a World Series, but there's a lot of potential moving pieces and free agents that could depart the Dodgers, and I don't know what to make of that Dodgers bullpen.
I agree, and I know that they did sign Tommy Canale, I think, today from the Yankees on a 2-year deal, but the bullpen for me seems to be is probably the biggest thing right now for the Dodgers to polish up, because I think that it's time to cut the cord with Jansen. I would not touch, even on December 29th, I would not touch Jansen or Trinan with a 10-foot pole right now because of how they were down the stretch in the playoffs. I think Tyler Rourke would agree with me. No more Jansen. I mean, it was a great story. No more Trinan as well. And also, guys, plenty of thoughts rolling in about the baseball topic. James Gonzalez first writes in saying, Padres again shocked the baseball world. Meanwhile, his Angels sitting on their hands. Ugh, definitely agree. Tyler says, typical baseball, poor small market Cubs getting bullied by a big market team and losing a big pitcher, ... James also says, I'm looking to see if Mackenzie Gore makes the major league roster for San Diego. I would probably think he's got a shot. It depends, though, about the season starting on time, in my mind, and also we'll see. Because I know that Weathers made his debut in the postseason last year against the Dodgers and was very great in his one inning of work. So we'll see. I don't know about that just yet. I would think, though, that right now, James, Chris Paddock and Adrian Morejon still have the nod over Gore right now. I think that Gore probably it would be one like Trout, I think, or Chris Bryant, James, a full month in the minors, and he's up for the rest of the season in May, if they in fact start on time in April. James also says, if Isaiah Leung ever owned a team, he'd be firing and hiring wildly. He would be AJ Preller, but firing and hiring, not signing key free agents over the offseason. James also chimes in to say, cannot believe the Padres were able to keep their top 6 prospects from these trades. AJ must be lying to other GMs about players. He already got caught for that once, though, in regards to Colin Ray having, I believe it was having false medical records when he got dealt, I believe, to the Marlins, along with Fernando Rodney, I think, for Chris Paddock and somebody else. Tyler also says, the Phillies are back. Yeah, back on the golf course in early October, maybe. I do agree, though, with Tyler on this one. The White Sox are a fun team in the American League, though curious how they that will work with Tony La Russa as their manager. That will be definitely be very interesting in regards to how La Russa, hopefully can clean up his act, hopefully. But I agree, though, that the White Sox, I believe, are at the 5th best odds right now for the world title behind Dodgers, Padres, Yankees, Houston, Chicago, I think. I might be wrong on that. And also, Tyler says the Dodgers have a lot of free agents, yes, but also plenty of money in a deep farm system. Tyler, are we sure about the farm system? Because I believe I saw a stat today. It may have been a false one, or it may have just been one that I caught at a bad time. But I believe that MLB Network had the best Dodger prospect at 65 in the pipeline. I might be wrong on that, but I don't know if it was 65 or was it a different number. I think I saw 65 for one of their top prospects. But definitely, though, Tyler, believe me, I am not counting out the Dodgers. But to me, though, the Padres, at least on paper, and of course we don't play games on paper, fellas, it's closing a bit. But I still think that the Dodgers, in my mind, are the favorites. But it's going to be very fun to see how these games pan out, though, between these two organizations. And also, James says that's the difference from those 90s Braves in regards to how, in fact, the Dodgers are currently being run right now in the 2010s to 2020s. And Tyler also says, I agree about Jansen. Dodger fans have been saying that for a couple of seasons now. I mean, I agree. And especially more so, Tyler, you've done all that work to get to the ninth with the lead, and you could hope and, and you're hoping and praying for one guy to do their job. But more so for me, though, I think you would agree, though, as well, Tyler, it is definitely more so with Jansen, the playoff struggles more than anything else for me in this case. And I would definitely think that, I'm right there with Dodger fans. I would not touch Jansen, even approaching 2021. I'm not giving him the ball to close out 2020 on New Year's Eve. Him and Trenton are off the list for relievers to come in to close out to close down the year. And Tyler agrees. No doubt that the gap is closing. I love it. Makes those September games way more interesting. The fact that, by the way, right now, Tyler, the fact that only one of these games right now is on national TV, shameful in regards to ESPN and their coverage right now of Major League Baseball. But with that, though, guys, we'll wrap things up for the night and head on over and into tonight's Final Thoughts. All right, fellas, time to wrap up our second to last program, or at least third to last show here for the year of 2020 on this Tuesday. Isaiah, we will start with you for your final thoughts for tonight's show. What do you got, buddy?
Well, Callan, John, before I get into my final thoughts, I want to thank our audience for tuning in tonight. I want to thank Tyler, James Gonzalez, as well as Stephen Wang. And hold on. Austin Morrison as well. Welcome back to the MI6 Sports Network, my friend. We missed you so much. But I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in. You guys mean so much to us. You guys are truly the best audience or the best fan base on the planet. Like I said, when I went live and got that Christmas message out to you guys, we're nothing without you guys. You guys tune in no matter who's on the network, no matter who's hosting the show, no matter who's on the panel on that specific show that day that we're doing it, no matter what topics are being discussed, you guys still tune in no matter what. And, that's just great commitment from you guys, and we really appreciate it. Callan, my final thoughts is that how about those Cleveland Cavaliers? I picked them as my surprise team to, sneak into the Eastern Conference playoffs as that final 8th spot in the East, and the Cavaliers are off to a 3-0 start. I know they lost tonight. They're 3-1 now, but they've looked good the first 4 games of the season. Colin Sexton, the guy that I said would have a breakout year, he's doing his thing. He's averaging 27 points a game. He had 32 a couple of nights ago. He had 24, I believe, the night before or the game before today. He had 20 again today. This guy is just a automatic bucket. I mean, the Cavs are playing really good basketball. They are, I believe, 3rd in terms of points per game in the association. I think they're also 5th in terms of assists per game in the NBA. And as well, I think they are I think I might be wrong on this, but I think they're 2nd when it comes to rebounds as well, rebounds per game. The Cavs are just playing really good basketball. JB Bickerstaff has those guys playing really well. I hope they continue it because I really want to see Colin Sexton get the respect that he deserves, and I also want to see the Cavaliers make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference and shake things up.
We'll see how things go in that Eastern Conference. Plus, got to give props to the Cavs for those very awesome Rock and Roll Hall of Fame tribute uniforms, by the way. Pretty awesome stuff for the Cavs. John Alcorn, over to you, buddy. What do you got for final thoughts?
First of all, Isaiah, it's been 4 games. Don't give me false hope as a Cavs fan when Kevin Love is out 3 to 5 weeks. But again, this really does mean a lot that people are tuning in no matter what time. I am thankful to be a part of the network. Whether me and Isaiah disagree a lot, whether we like to troll Isaiah or lot, as people can tell right now. But it definitely is a lot of fun. Yeah, my Longhorns won tonight, but we're not talking about Tom Herman, but it really is a lot of fun to talk sports with y'all, and definitely can't wait for the show. And the Cleveland Browns are going to win this game. Mark my words. Again, I wish fantasy football extended for a couple of weeks. Watch Baker Mayfield. Watch Nick Chubb. Watch this whole team. They're going to play phenomenal.
Yeah, hoping for the best for the Browns on Sunday. Tyler Work writes in, also want to say thanks to the 11 teams who passed on Tyrese Halliburton. Already looking good for his Sacramento Kings. We're up to a 3-1 start. They knocked off Denver, I believe, tonight from Golden One Center in Sacktown tonight in the state capital of California. With that, folks, again, more so for me, it's final announcements more so than thoughts on this program. And we, of course, folks, thank you again for tuning in, for joining us, and for once more being here as we get back to work finally after our Christmas break. With that, folks, as we said, though, at the top of the program, we had two different bracket challenge matchups tonight due to, again, us kind of being lost in the shuffle because of the Christmas holiday. So, folks, the official results from both of our polls done on Twitter tonight, plus the one on the live stream tonight, we got here. In both of them, by the way, were both me versus Isaiah in both of the programs here. So we split today. Kobe being better than Larry Bird beats keeping Luke Walton over LeBron James, while Lonzo beats the Shades in the other one. So, folks, again, we'll have one more matchup for you folks coming up on tomorrow's program of Wild Sports Talk. But we're also going to be having a couple of them running on Twitter because we have to make up lost ground for what you see, folks, scrolling across your screen. That, folks, again, is the heads up for coming up on Thursday. On Thursday, probably the greatest show of all time in network history. The network's New Year's Eve extravaganza running not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not even 5, 6 hours coming your way, folks, starting at 6 o'clock Pacific time on Thursday. Now, folks, as a rehash here real quick, this is going to be a 6-hour program divided into two 3-hour programs. So the stream is not going to end at 3 hours flat. So again, as a reminder, Trevor Williams, Shri Anand, Ryan Schreiner, and John Alcorn will host the first 3 hours of the program from 6 o'clock Pacific time to 9 o'clock Pacific time to mark 9 o'clock to midnight Eastern time. Then myself, Isaiah, Stephen Wang, John Mathis, and if anyone wants to stick around, we'll join you folks at 9 o'clock Pacific time and lead you into the new year on the West Coast. So we're going to be having every time zone basically on the mainland U.S. Taken care of for the New Year's Eve extravaganza coming up, folks, on New Year's Eve back here at 6 o'clock Pacific time. And also, folks, we'll be having a special guest joining us on a special Wednesday edition of No BS. Isaiah, will let you have the floor for the guest and who is coming on with you and Trevor only tomorrow. Who you got?
Yeah, so thank you, Callan. Tomorrow we've got Gilbert Manzano, who is the beat writer for the Los Angeles Chargers. He works for the OC Register. He will be joining us at 5 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow to talk about his career in sports media, as well as talk about everything Los Angeles Chargers. So if you want to know the fate of Anthony Lynn and also potential candidates that could replace him as the Chargers' next head coach, and also if you want to know why the Chargers keep choking, tune in tomorrow. We will have all the answers for you on that episode. And also, I wasn't supposed to reveal this today, but I am so excited because next Friday, the 8th, right, Callan? Yes, I believe it was the 8th, yes. January 8th at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, we will be having Phillies Nation writer Tim Kelly join us to talk about all things Philadelphia Phillies. We're going to talk about Bryce Harper, talk about the hiring of Dave Dombrowski, the hiring of Sam Fuld as general manager, and also we're going to talk about the Phillies and what are they going to do this offseason. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And also Philadelphia, I am sorry for bashing the Phillies. Didn't mean to do that. Just did it out of anger.
Isaiah, don't worry. They do that all the time with the Phillies, the Flyers, the Eagles, the Union, you name it, the Sixers. I mean, no one is safe from the scorn of Philadelphia sports fans, but rightfully so, though, when, of course, you live in a market where, nothing flies, when you don't win games. Again, folks, also, as one final reminder with that, folks, coming up As early as next Monday, January 4th, again, we'll be having a revamped program lineup coming your way, folks, starting on January 4th with Wild Sports Talk with myself, Isaiah Leung, and John Mathis at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. Then I will be hosting my solo program, The Sports Lounge, every Tuesday, starting January 5th at 8 o'clock Pacific time. And then John Alcorn will have his solo man show, the one-man show, every Thursday evening at 9:30 Pacific time. No BS with myself, Furman, Isaiah, and Trevor Williams at 6:30 in the evening Pacific time. Saturdays are doubleheader days with Fan Response, the night shift, with those two programs. Then, of course, the night shift, again, is moving permanently as of today to Saturday and Sunday, and also as of next week. But once more, folks, WST every Monday and Wednesday, the Sports Lounge with Callan McClurg every Tuesday, John Alcorn's one-man show every Thursday, No BS every Friday, a doubleheader of programming on Saturdays with Fan Response and the night shift, and of course, the night shift will round things out on Sunday nights as well. Again, Isaiah, I think we'll go back to you real quick to, again, kind of talk a bit more about this reshuffle lineup again. You know, this once more was kind of a thing, though, because of numbers, analytics, you know, kind of like how baseball teams are made up in Oakland with numbers and analytics and viewership. But Isaiah, again, you kind of see the graphic on screen, bud, for the new program, or at least reshuffled lineup, though, man. Isaiah, what are you most looking forward to about this revamped lineup coming up next week?
Well, Callan, I'm looking forward to, taking a step back and not doing programming 7 days a week. That would be great. Thank you, John and Callan, for, lightening the load for me. Really appreciate you guys. But in all seriousness, though, I am looking forward to definitely your show, Callan, the Sports Lounge. It's going to be very exciting for you to bring that back after 7 years of it being on hiatus. I'm also looking forward to the new fan engagement shows that we have. Fan Response, the viewers get to call in to Fan Response and give their opinions. And also, I believe, that show, and also No BS, we're going to be switching to a format where you, the fans, get to vote on every segment that we debate. You guys get to vote on who won that segment between myself, Trevor, Furman, and Callan as well. So it's going to be great. I'm loving the fan engagement stuff that we have. And, John, you might not want to hear this, but you better believe I am going to be the first caller on Fan Response.
You're getting ghosted.
You guys make that next when you guys have that first show. I will be the first. I will be busting those phone lines, my man, and spewing some, delusional stuff about Nick Mullins, Drew Lock. You better believe it. Those two guys are going to be mentioned.
You're gonna get ghosted like this last girl did to me. So nice try, but it's not gonna happen. Nope.
Oh, goodness gracious. That is where we are at right now, folks. But as a reminder, everybody, the mega show. I mean, we have the mega cast, fellas, on ESPN for every single college football playoff game and the national title game. This is, I think, going to be better than the mega cast for those two games in the national title game. New Year's Eve extravaganza. 6 hours of MI6 programming. How fitting. MI6 broadcast for 6 hours coming up on New Year's Eve, folks. Again, as a reminder, it'll be Trevor Williams, Shri Anand, Ryan Schreiner, and the rest of our East Coast fellas hosting the program coming up at 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern, up until midnight their time. Then, of course, we'll have myself, Isaiah, Shareable Steve, and John Mathis, and the rest of the cast and crew join for the 9 o'clock to midnight shift. And we will, folks, ring in the new year with you live on air twice. At 9 o'clock when it goes to midnight on the East Coast, and then we'll do it as well at midnight on the left coast as well. But with that, again, folks, for Isaiah Leung, for John Alcorn, and the rest of the cast and crew here of the MI6 Sports Network, yours truly, Callan McClurg, saying goodnight on this Tuesday. Again, folks, we'll see you next time. We will see you next time on the night shift. Coming up on Saturday, or next Saturday, I should say, we'll be off post the New Year's extravaganza. We got to recover after 6 hours of programming. So we'll be off, folks, to celebrate New Year's Day. We'll be back with you folks, as mentioned, coming up on January 4th for the program schedule. We'll start off our new programming on January 10th for us coming back here on the night shift as of this evening, folks. But again, folks, till next time, have a good rest of your night. Take care. Please stay safe and stay healthy. And so long. Sayonara and farewell. We are out of here. Good night. Bye-bye.